So where are you at? Where are you about now? Sound like you.
I'm in a town called Middletown, California, just south of Clear Lake. It's along the coastal range north of San Francisco. It's real pretty. Of course, there's burnt rocks at the tops of all the hills, basalt stuff with no volcanoes. It's the same as everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's a consistency where you go, where it's like all this burnt, melted stuff with no explanation. So it's nice. The people, they have a couple of rock clubs here. They asked me to come and talk to them.
Oh, that's neat.
Yes.
You had some pretty good success with your crowdfunding past few weeks.
Yeah, one guy came through, which I was hoping for. All it takes is one.
What crowdsource do you use? Is it Kickstart or?
I use Indiegogo.
Indiegogo, that's right. Yeah. I had never heard of that one before.
That's the first one I had heard of. Some woman was a monitor in the back of a school bus. And 3 14-year-old boys just started ridiculing her and mocking her, being really mean, and somebody recorded it with an iPhone. And somebody started an Indiegogo account for her and said, wouldn't it be nice if she got some money to make up for all the meanness? And they got $650,000.
Oh, wow.
So I was willing to have 3 14-year-old girls mocking me. And I thought maybe I could get a lot of money that way, but it didn't work out that way. But yeah, somebody backed my thing. I think it'll work. I don't have the money in my bank account yet, but I think it'll get there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Congratulations.
It'll just keep me on the road longer. I can, with my Social Security and that money, it can keep me on the road for 4 or 5, maybe even 6 months, living frugally. Trying to make more videos and get more details. So that's kind of cool. And then hopefully I'll be able to help you at some point. Everybody seems to understand that with a little bit of funding, you can probably do some really major things. So
Yeah.
I noticed Mark Spam was agitating in that direction, which is a good thing.
Ain't no harm in pushing. It sure isn't.
Well, it's just getting the truth out. If dollar for dollar, you get a bigger bang for your buck, I think, with me and with you than you do with a lot of other stuff, where you might be able to have a really big impact on a lot of thinking without spending that much money.
Yeah.
So could be bang for the buck.
Hey, Billy, can you go ahead and bring in James on the call? Hey, James is another plasma physicist, so to speak. He's been doing some electrical discharge experiments, and we just wanted to get with you and brainstorm some possible ideas or possible future experiments. And Billy was going to go over and talk about maybe his new setup there that he's working on.
I think I've been talking to James, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you and him had a chance to talk?
Yeah, there's a lot of potential. It's unbelievable.
Hey.
Hi, James.
Yeah, welcome to the conversation.
Oh, thanks. I sound more manly than usual because I've got a cold, so I apologize.
Oh, dear. Goes around.
Well, congratulations on sounding more manly. That's a good thing.
Yes, every little bit helps, doesn't it?
Something like that. Did you get a chance to look at the photographs that I sent you, the attachments?
I did. They're very cool. They're very, very interesting.
Prior to the zapping, I sent him pictures of rocks that Colorado Mike made by melting dirt in a crucible. And prior to the melting, there was no crystallization whatsoever. It was just dirt from the side of a creek. So there was 0 crystals. And when they were finished, you have all of these quartz crystals. So it was able to do this in 2 minutes instead of tens of thousands, if not millions of years of slow cooling underground like granite's supposed to require. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Is there any way to tell if that might be a shocked quartz?
I don't know how to differentiate. I'm guessing it is. I've looked up the definition of shocked quartz in the past, but I'll do it again. I know piezoelectric qualities of quartz dissipate as you heat the quartz. So it kind of implies that whatever process made the quartz made it piezoelectric, but if you reheat it, then you lose that quality. Plasma doesn't necessarily have to heat stuff.
Right.
I am reminded of this by Mel and other plasma people that it can actually cool things, but it also has the ability to compress at the same time. So you don't necessarily have to be heating things like quartz veins in order to be getting them. You might be heating them. I'm not saying you can't, but it might not be a requirement in some of these processes. There might be harmonics, all sorts of other things that I know Billy's leaning towards these days.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that point too.
It's a lot of questions, not answers, concerning these things, and we're just scratching the surface. And just think of, in 100 years, if you could get a couple of classes of real geology students thinking about this stuff and charting it, computerizing it, digitizing it, that there's a lot of potential, groundbreaking stuff to be learned in the future, I think.
I don't think there's any doubt that you can create crystals with plasma. Billy, do you remember that one video link I sent you and Ben with the sealed helium neon argon tube?
Yes, I recall it.
And, in that sealed environment, you had essentially a plasma that produced some form of crystalline accretion. So I think it's a combination of forces, magnetic fields, radioactive fields, and electrical currents, specifically DC or AC discharges, and very abrupt discharges. I think that's the formula.
I agree.
Yeah, well, it's already been done once. It just has to be replicated. If we can replicate what this other guy did and make pegmatite, which is really crystalline granite, it would just really, and again, if you can replicate the replications, it would really be a big deal. The fact that you're able to get X-rays and possibly gamma rays with your experiments, Andrew, I think opens up a lot of potential that might not be there otherwise. Apparently, you're getting really energetic arc discharges from what Billy was telling me.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure at what level they are, but they're hard. They're fairly constrained because of where they are. But I was really amazed to register that off of 2 carbon electrodes. I would understand if one was a metallic substrate, but we're getting this effect off of 2 carbon electrodes, which I find sort of interesting. But it does speak to the ability for the type of plasma to be an ionizing type of plasma that has higher energy particles than what we might assume with plasma phenomenon. So I'm not sure if Waller has ever gotten into talking about that, but it's a very interesting phenomenon.
I can't wait for results with the crucibles where you're holding the heat in and let it run for 2 minutes or whatever length of time you can. It might take a while to go over to the more energetic discharge like you saw in your video with a slow motion. But yeah, if you can get it to that stage, I think you're going to melt the dirt. And when it cools off, I think it's going to be a crystalline rock. And I hope there's somebody around there that you can have it thin sliced with, some sort of college with a geology department. That would really be efficient.
That's been one thing that's been somewhat difficult is I've gone to a local college here and I showed them, one of the chemistry professors, the contents of my sealed helium argon tube, and you start talking about transmutation of elements and they start to look at you incredulously like, are you okay? Is there something wrong with your brain? And you request, well, is there any way to assay this, under strict conditions? And they're not seemingly very willing to do so. So it's an interesting issue. So that's one aspect I'm still working on.
You might need to hold back a little bit of your information and just give it out on a need-to-know basis to tell them that, yeah, you accidentally melted something and you want to see what the rocks look like and if they can give you some sort of a feel for what they are. Right. Thin slice is probably the best way. So, yeah, transmutation might turn them off. So baby steps.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of potential. I'd love to see higher amps, but I'll take whatever we can get. And it looks like what you're doing with your capacitors is putting out a lot of energy, whatever the amps and volts are. So,
Yeah, Bill, you want to talk a little bit about your upgrade you got going on, or you ready to talk about that yet?
Yeah, I got a few more days left before we test it out, so I don't like to go too far into announcing things until I make sure they work first, you know.
Billy, did you get some of the bigger 50 kV caps at all?
No, actually, I'll go ahead and say it here to the Suspicious Observer subscribers. This won't actually be public anyway, so. But I came across a 150 kV medical X-ray transformer.
Oh, that'll be fun.
It's a big one too. It's in a 7-gallon cabinet. It's actually 2 very large flyback transformers wired in series, and it has 2 banks of 14 6,000 volt capacitors on each side. They're all in series for a total of 28 6 kV, so that's like 168 kV. So I don't know. I didn't get any schematic with it or any paperwork with it or anything. I had to get with Roger Pazon here, our electrical engineer from the Thunderbolts, and I shot him some pictures, and we did some research on it. That's what we came up with. So.
Very good. Just be careful. That'll be fun.
Yeah, if it does work. It was damaged, not from the factory, but during shipping. And when it arrived at the hospital, they turned it down. So it had been factory tested, but it had never been put into service. So it's literally brand new. They had a dented corner there. Dell Medical, they put them online. They come on eBay, whatnot, and Amazon periodically. If you just keep a lookout for them, you'll find them. The first transformer I got was the same process. I just kept looking on eBay for them, and finding a good deal. It was actually a dental X-ray transformer, the dental head, X-ray head.
I think the dentist that I worked for would just have a coronary if I brought in a 168 kilovolt X-ray transformer. He would just laugh.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to make hot dust with this, or that's going to be a whole other level of energy in order to get the dust to be molten, theoretically?
We can get a pretty good amount of heat with the capacitor type setup where I have a conductive plate over a dielectric plate with, the medium right in the middle. And then we do where we have the gap is really small, where we raise the columns. When I raise the columns with the discharge,
yeah,
we get a pretty good bit of heat right now with just the 70 kV. You could throw a thermometer, laser thermometer on there, get 220, 300 degrees sometimes. But that's letting it run for quite a while. The little 70,000 volt transformer has very little amperage to it. I'm only putting 5 amps into it, 110 volts.
And what's the new system going to have? How many amps?
Well, I don't know that either. See, that's the thing. We don't have any paperwork on it whatsoever. Roger's supposedly going to work all that out for me. We're going to find out. He's got a buddy he's supposed to be getting in touch with to find out. Like I said, just got the thing. Wasn't going to make a big announcement about it till I got it all working right.
Well, you give us something to look forward to. That's cool, though.
Yeah. Well, it has smaller transformers in it that are responsible for heating the tungsten, the little tungsten heater cathode in the X-ray tube. Mm-hmm. That's heated from a low voltage source. Those are also integrated in there. I had to trace those out and make sure I disconnected them and stuff like that, so that we only use the part that we need, I guess. But at any rate, yeah, she's out there vacuuming down the past 2 days. I put 7 gallons of oil in it, so I need to run it for about 24 hours.
What kind of oil are you putting in it, Billy?
I'm just using that mineral oil.
Okay.
It came, I'm sure it came with Shell Electric. It had a little bit in the bottom, but I poured that out, cleaned it all up, and I just put mineral oil back in it. I don't see where it'd be a big problem. If it does anything, it may not be reach its full potential, but I don't see that being a problem either. It should be just fine. I mean, that's what they used up until just a few years ago. So
Sure.
yeah,
And it's way less expensive than the floor inert.
and it's still $20 a gallon.
Yeah.
But yeah, you ain't kidding. That other's $80-$100 a gallon.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so hopefully with that new setup, that'll increase some voltage if everything goes as planned.
Definitely increased voltage, but as far as amperage goes, just absolutely not sure at all right this moment. Like I said, Roger will shed light on that throughout the week, I guess.
I'm not sure that we need the high amperage, though. It may be the low amperage and high voltage.
Yeah. To melt what Michael's looking for, yeah, I think we're going to need quite a bit of it. But again, seeing what James is doing with the capacitor bank that he has there, I mean, hell, it's it's conceivable that he could do it too.
Well, that stuff will melt through 5 or 6 millimeters of sand.
So. My attention when I first saw it, and then of course he did the demonstration of it, and I'm like, damn, that is incredible. To only be 66 or 60 watts, is that right?
60 watts and 30 milliamps. That's it. That's crazy.
Yeah, and have a completely molten trail for several inches, glowing red with just 60 watts is incredible.
And it'll be interesting to go in different directions and say, okay, now we do it with less amps, more amps, see what the difference is, see which direction you want to go to. I think there's just a learning curve that's going to be really cool. Yeah. And it'll lead you in the right direction as long as you're looking at different variables and keeping an open mind and letting it take you where it needs to go. I think that's what I'm looking forward to. It's really fun. It's like this is the ground floor of this whole new line of investigation for an entire science. It's kind of trippy to be in this position for all of us. We're really lucky to have stumbled onto this.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure James feels the same way when he's sitting there doing that. Because you have to think, man, you can't believe somebody hadn't already tried this yet,
Right.
So, I know you get that feeling.
Yeah. I get that feeling often.
I think they have. I think there's been people out there that have really experimented with this, but there's been no unification of the theory and really getting people together to get all aspects of this brought together under one theory would be nice eventually.
I say nobody's tried it, though. You have to give credit where it's due. D.C. Parker's been working on this for many, many, many years, and he has some outstanding little web page showing, what he's capable with electricity. Kind of like I was in the beginning, you're short on energy. You need, it's addictive. You need more. I need more. So it works out. And it's hard to get bigger transformers. They cost more money, more time. So,
yeah.
Same with Wall, I think they used mostly what they used was welding equipment. Am I right, Michael? Is that right?
I'm not that certain. I really can't say. It seems logical. It's where you get the amps. It's where you get the the heat and the power.
Yeah, low voltage, high amperage. So,
again, that's where this guy Colorado Mike was just stumbling. He wasn't trying to make rock or do any kind of scientific research. He was just trying to smelt ore. So, yeah, he wasn't doing it in a way that would be reproducible in nature, but that's kind of where we want to go more than what he was doing. We want to do something that was like, well, okay, could a river of fire do this? Could something Aurora-like or an arc discharge from, straight above? Whatever. There's a lot of different potential sources for electricity that would look different.
I've always wanted it would be like to put, dirt or some sort of material inside of an induction heater coil. You know what I'm talking about, James?
Yeah.
Especially like iron, or hematite, whatever that, iron oxide or aluminum. I don't know, does aluminum work in the induction? The aluminum doesn't heat, does it? Or does it?
No, it has a magnetic moment, so there would be some effect on it for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's right, it does. I've seen them crush cans with these.
Exactly.
That creates a pinch. So yeah, I'd like to see what happens when we put something in something like that. I don't know. I haven't looked into the induction heaters very much, so I'm not familiar with them.
I've seen them make pieces of steel glow red hot in a few
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah.
Mills and stuff. It's amazing how quickly they can heat it up to being pliable and malleable.
Yeah.
So yeah, electricity can really, really, really do a number on iron.
I still think that there's one part of the equation, though, that we're missing. It's not just the electrical effect, it's high energy particles to knock the protons off. I think you have to have a higher energy level to rearrange things, to get things to change state, or to go past the point of just getting warm. So,
are you talking photonic? Are you talking X-ray and gamma ray?
Whatever high energy particles are required, I suppose that depends upon what you're starting with, but it's going to take, I think, a combination of electrical, nuclear, and magnetic forces to get things to fundamentally change. And the interesting thing about the plasma with the arcs, even with Colorado's experiments, is you have the potential for that occurring, because you mentioned that he was using lead. It's possible a piece of that lead may have been hot when he was mixing things with some form of radioactive materials. For all we know, the slag or whatever he was using could have been partially radioactive. There's not much difference between the way driveway slag rocks looks like in comparison to uranium ore. So, but part of it is you lose some of that radioactivity when you heat it up as well, but yet that phenomenon can come back after it cools off, which is sort of interesting with time. So these are all fascinating things, but I think we're going to have to combine more than just electrical to see some of the changes that we're looking for on the scales that we're looking for.
I agree.
One interesting experiment that was on YouTube with the induction heater, utilizing aluminum. They were actually levitating aluminum core inside of a coil and heating it and melting it. Eventually, it loses its strength, becomes liquid, and hits the floor.
That sounds messy.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting though, the way the cube will just levitate within that coil, not fall directly through the coil, but it's captured by the field and then starts to heat.
It's interesting.
Yeah, try it on YouTube. Fascinating.
It is.
So I don't want to take up too much of your time, Michael. I know you got other things to do. Was there anything else you want to add to the conversation? I did want to mention, too, that I really appreciate the videos that you've been doing, giving us a deeper look at some of the stuff that you're looking at. It's really opening a lot of people's eyes. I think it's generating quite a response.
Did we lose him?
I hope not. It appears so.
His work definitely changes the way you look at mountains and all those things, so it's a good effort.
Yeah, without a doubt. Give him a couple minutes, see if he can come back on. If not, if he needs to take off, that's fine too, Mike. No problem.
Yeah, it doesn't show he's hung up on us or anything.
I'm back.
There it goes. Well, in closing, is there anything you'd like to say or get out? Any words you'd like to?
Me?
Yes, sir. You, Michael Steinbacher.
Just check out the YouTubes. There's an incredible cache of stuff.
Oh yeah,
of information. It's really getting to be fairly large, and it's a preponderance of evidence. It's like there's a whole bunch of sort of smoking guns. I think, or that's how I look at it. I'm prejudiced.
I think that's exactly what Trevor was talking about just a few minutes ago when we lost you.
Yeah, it's really adding a lot to the community. It's a big contribution what you're doing there, Michael, and I think it's really opening a lot of people's eyes to what you're seeing out there.
There's a lot of details. There's a lot of technical stuff that really points in the direction of a cometary interaction, changing the surface to a great depth, and it's a completely new way of looking at everything. It's bizarre. So, yeah. But the YouTubes are, I think, a really wonderful resource that should live on. I'm really happy that I'm getting them out there. So I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, me too. It's good information. Like you said, it's going to be there for a long time for
Yeah,
many people to look
Andreas
at.
Ote is recording them, so we're going to have a stash of them. So if I get hit by a bus, it'll all be available, which is kind of, it's a nice feeling to know that it'll be available.
Yeah.
So I'm very pleased about that. If anybody wants to go out and look at it, I know Billy can't because of issues, but if anybody wants to come see this stuff, it's really obvious in the field what's going on. I should be trouncing or going around the deserts and the mountains, I think, for a bit this year. So try to give me a call or get in touch.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to plan on going to the conference this year with Ben, so if you're going to be around running a tour.
Which conference?
The EU in Phoenix.
Is Ben going now?
I believe I've got him talked into going, yeah.
Oh, tell him that I'm supposed to go and I'm supposed to speak now.
Okay, very good.
And Andreas Ote is coming over 3 weeks in advance.
Oh,
so
excellent.
We're probably going to have a 3-week geology tour with him, with Andreas and myself. Fairly low key, not as crazy as we've done it in the past, where he likes to go for 14 hours a day. We can't do that for 3 weeks in a row. It'd be kind of debilitating. But we'll still have a good time. So keep that in mind. I'll be putting up notices of, one sort or another concerning this.
This will be prior to the conference?
Yeah, and then afterwards,
okay.
I go out and continue to do the same thing. So it's like an unending geology tour the rest of my life. So anybody can come along. Hopefully they'll be friendly and chilled and not be a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
so,
I definitely want to participate
it's just nice
in that
to
at some
share
point.
this stuff and to show it to people. Other people see things that I miss because they're looking at it with different eyes, and I see things they miss. So it's nice to get other people's impressions of what it is I'm doing. It can also be a pain in the ass. It's like, wow, geez, it was great being by myself. I never really appreciated it. So it's a combination of, you want what you don't have. But generally speaking, it's really fun. And I have an awful lot. If you look at the videos, there's a lot of places that I've been. And there's a lot of places that I haven't done videos of. There's an incredible number of locations to go to. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, it sounds great. It sounds like a great time.
And you don't have to go hiking. You can do it from the seat of a car. You can see everything. You don't even need 4-wheel drive. It's a bonus to have it. It's a bonus to be able to hike, and it's a bonus to be able to rent a quad. But you don't need that stuff. You can just sit in the car and see everything. It's really convenient.
Yeah, that's cool. I look forward to it.
Anyway, I gotta run and pack up my room and get out of here.
Sounds good. Thanks for your time, Michael.
Take care, Mike. Yeah, be well, everybody. Can't wait to get the experiments.
Absolutely, we're gonna stay on top of them.
And you guys, if Andrew and Billy can talk and back and forth about dirt and availability of what's available and the dolomite, which is easy to get, and then if you just have a stream with dirt on the sides of the banks, if you can sift it, I think it'll probably work pretty well too. So if Billy can help you with that, I think.
Sounds good.
Be well. Talk to you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Trevor, one thing for sure that I find just truly awesome. One of your things that you had in one of your videos was a closed-minded person only believes in their own interpretation on life. A very open-minded person will take on board everyone's theory on life and dismiss none, therefore having a much greater chance of possessing the real truth. That's where the benefit of all of the work that everybody's doing out there is. And it's, with only one mindset, the paradigm that's been established is inadequate. And it's really an honor to be able to work with a bunch of people that are still trying to sift through and finding the truth. So bravo to you guys again.
Oh, well, thanks, James. That's kind of our motive behind the round table, is to put everybody on an equal platform here.
Right. Yeah, we find so much every day that it's a matter of perspective. It's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just the fact that I don't know. Did you guys see this viral thing about this dress?
Yeah, the color blue.
Yeah. To me, the one thing that speaks out about that is the fact that people woke up, millions of people realize that even the person sitting right next to them does not see it the same way as you do.
That's exactly right.
You know, that's should be the big key, you know, in my opinion. That we all, even it's something as fundamental as that, a color, doesn't necessarily mean we all see it the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, we've dealt with a lot of people in this that are standard model proponents that are really hard-headed individuals and very arrogant. So, we don't want to follow their example by any means. Dealing with these people, we are trying to take, the opposite path, so to speak, in a different approach.
Right. Socrates is right. If you look at things with a critical eye and ask many questions, more often than not, you'll gather more knowledge and become more wise than you could possibly imagine by thinking you have all the answers, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point.